Welcome back to our channel. In today's video, I am going to be sharing with you guys the tips that I have learned to breastfeed my third baby. I wasn't able to breastfeed my first and second for too long because I feel like I wasn't as educated as I am now. Now that I am breastfeeding my third baby, I wanted to share some of the tips that helped me this time around, just in case, you know, any of you ladies want to try to breastfeed your baby, if you're pregnant or if you're currently, you know, struggling and need maybe some tips. Okay, so I have some notes here on my phone that I am going to be reading just because I didn't want to forget anything. So first of all, I'm going to say a little bit about like things that I didn't know, which I think is a huge part of why I can breastfeed now. So the first thing is that babies cluster feed the first few days of being born because they are trying to build your milk supply. I also learned that the milk that they get the first few days, usually it takes up to like 3 days. At least for me, it did. On my third day, I would get my mature milk. My mature milk would come in. But the first like 3 days, they get the colostrum, which is like, you know, that like gold is what they call it, where they get like all these antibodies and helps them build their immune system. So they get their colostrum for the first 3 days, and then that's when your mature milk comes out. And so this one is something that I didn't know that I feel like eased my mind this time around. So babies are born with like a fatty layer is what the lactation consultant called it. I think she gave it a name, but I forgot. But basically they have a fatty layer that they are born with, and basically that fatty layer keeps them alive for the first few days of them being born until your milk, like your mature milk, comes in. So if you feel like your baby's not eating, you know, when you're at the hospital or when you just give birth, just know that they are eating. They're eating the colostrum. But also, like, even if like your milk isn't coming like how we like, at least for me, I didn't know that my milk wasn't gonna kick in like fast. I thought that yes, they were gonna get the colostrum, but like I would be like leaking, I guess, in a way, and I didn't. So I would always ask for formula so my kids can eat, because I would think that they were like starving, you know, because they would always be trying to like cluster feed, and I'm like, they're not getting anything. But no, they are getting the colostrum, and that fatty layer is keeping them alive for the first few days. So I feel like that eased my mind. So I wasn't this time around, I wasn't thinking that, oh my gosh, my baby is cluster feeding because she's not eating, she's hungry, she's starving, she's crying. No, they are naturally born to cluster feed to like those first few days, so your body can produce the milk. And once your milk comes in, you're gonna have so much milk coming in, hopefully. Well, at least it did for me. And one of the tips that I did this time around, that back then I would pump, because I was like, oh my god, I'm so engorged, I need to pump. But this time around I didn't. So I just let my baby eat one feeding on one side and then the next feeding on the other. First of all, because I didn't want to interrupt her feeding, and then second of all, because I didn't want to, if I pumped on one side as I fed in the other, then my body would just keep producing milk on both as if she was eating all that milk. But since she wasn't, I just fed her with one on one side and then the next feeding on the other, and little by little my body got used to it, and I wasn't as engorged because my body, like, I guess figured out that she didn't need that much milk. So I just do one side and then the next. Okay, so another tip is that, so in the past I would always be sore. I was still sore this time around, but the soreness didn't last as long. First of all, because I think I didn't pump, and second of all, because like I didn't pump, but also because when I would pump in the past with my first 2 children, I didn't know that the pump comes usually in a size 21, I think, millimeters, or I think it's millimeters, 21, and that's how all the pumps come with, that size. And you know, us women, we're not all the same size, so you can get measured at the hospital, or I think you can buy like things to measure yourself with and get the right size. Because I was told that if you use the 21 mm size and you are smaller, then that makes you get more pain because you're rubbing in a weird way around the pump, and you're more sore because you're basically not pumping right. So make sure that you have the right size of the insert of the pump. You can buy one on Amazon, and so you can, you know, have a better pumping experience if that's what you're trying to do. I didn't want to pump this time around because I don't think I need to, because I'm a stay-at-home mom. So I just wanted to do like, you know, skin to skin, I guess. I didn't really want to give her a bottle. So yeah, and then so what you can do if you don't pump, and because you do get a letdown when you're breastfeeding from one side, you get a letdown on the other, and what you can't do is use a haka to catch that milk if you're trying to collect, you know, a little bit just for like baths, or you know, for like rashes or anything. You know, breast milk you can use for anything. So if you do want to catch that milk, you can always use a haka, and you don't have to like pump. That way your body doesn't like produce too much extra milk, unless that's what you want, of course. And then let me see. So for me, my baby cluster fed for at least a month, and it was very hard because at night I would be up basically all night. And obviously, you know, for newborns they say you never sleep, but I was literally not sleeping, and I almost gave up. Not that I gave up, but I almost gave her a bottle, like just to like get me through the nights a little bit. But my baby didn't like formula at the time anymore. Like, she was already so used to being breastfed that she didn't want the bottle anymore, so she didn't like it. So I just kept, you know, giving her my milk. And luckily after like a month she started to get more into like a routine, and you know, I was producing the milk that she needed, and she was eating what she needed to eat, and she was lasting longer periods at night without feeding so often. But she was cluster feeding so much like the first month that, yeah. So just be prepared if you feel like, oh my gosh, like this is too much, like they're just eating all the time. It's not forever, and you know, it's very, very hard, but you know, just keep going at it. After like a month, then your baby is gonna like let you do more, because they are not just like cluster feeding all the time. Well, at least that's what happened with me. So that was my experience. So be prepared for a lot of cluster feeding. Skin to skin is also very important as soon as the baby is born. And if you can put baby on the breast, as you know, as soon as you can, even better. You know, that way like your body knows that baby is here and baby needs food and baby is hungry, and you know, the more skin to skin, the better. So like I mentioned before, I do breastfeed from one side, one feed, and then breastfeed with the other breast the next feeding. That way I'm not like super engorged. So I'm kind of in a routine. So, you know, I'll do one side and then the other, and I feel like that works best for me. That way I'm not like forgetting one side and I'm like, oh my god, this one is huge and this one is like, you know. So that's how I keep myself from being like engorged, and also like producing from both simultaneously without it being too much. So I breastfeed on demand. So if my baby is hungry right now, I will feed her right now. If she's hungry in 10 minutes, I will feed her in 10 minutes. If she's hungry in 2 hours, I'll feed her in 2 hours. So I was told by the lactation consultant that babies that are breastfed can never be overfed. So if they're hungry, it's for a reason. They're meeting their needs. And when they're breastfed, like, it's totally fine if they eat whenever they want. So you don't have to wait every 2 to 3 hours, like, you know, usually we're told to wait, I guess. So I breastfeed whenever my baby wants. Breast milk also changes over time. So as your baby grows, your milk will get thicker, it'll get a little bit fattier, and it'll fill your baby up and, you know, keep your baby full longer, obviously. So if you were to pump, this is another thing that I was told. I haven't confirmed it myself, but I was told that, you know, if she, let's say she's a year old and I pump and I give her, I fill up a whole bottle, an 8-ounce bottle of breast milk, and she only eats 4 to 5 ounces. But if I was to give her formula, she could finish the whole 8-ounce bottle of formula, because formula consistency stays the same, and breastfed and breast milk changes as your baby grows to meet their needs. So, you know, if you were to pump, if you were to do both, just know that if they're eating less with breast milk, it's totally normal than if they were to drink formula. So that is the last tip that I had, or everything that I know so far. If you guys have any other questions, let me know and I can answer them down below. So, because this is what has worked for me, these things, I've noticed that I've been doing different from the first 2 times that I breastfed my first 2 kids. So I'm finally able to breastfeed my baby, and I'm so happy. I feel like this was always a dream of mine, but I always, for one reason or the other, I couldn't. So yeah, I wanted to share these tips or things that I know now that maybe can help, you know, another mom that is planning to breastfeed or is struggling to breastfeed. It is very, very hard. It's not easy, especially at first, because they don't sleep, we don't sleep, and, you know, but it's all worth it. And, you know, breastfeeding is a lot of work. So pat yourself on the back if you are a breastfeeding mom, and if you're trying, you know, don't give up. And if you can't, well, fed is always best, so formula it is. I never had anything against formula, but I always wanted that experience of breastfeeding my kids, and I would do certain things with my last 2 that I don't do now. And I feel like, you know, now the things that I mentioned, I feel like helped me so much to now be able to breastfeed my 3rd baby. So, you know, just, and I also read and saw a lot of videos to like learn, and I also talked to my lactation consultant, and the lactation consultant that I had this time around, she knew so much, and that's the reason why I feel like I was able to breastfeed. She just helped me so much, and I feel like because of her I didn't give up, and I just kept trying and trying, and now there is 0 pain. I'm able to breastfeed, and, you know, I'm finally able to experience breastfeeding one of my kids. So I'm gonna leave today's video here. If you have any other questions, please comment them down below so I can answer them. And thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.